What's up, Summoners? King Blair here. Today, for Top 5 Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the top 5 changes that we need in RTA to make the game mode not only more enjoyable for a wider variety of players, but also more long-lasting and help the longevity of Epic 7. So, if you didn't know, this is going to be the end of the 3rd season of RTA. And even if you're a player that may not have tried RTA heavily or only plays it for the skin, it is still a very important game mode that we need to make sure is improving and getting better, since it is going to be a major pull for a lot of players and for the longevity of the game itself. So that's why it is so important. So even if you may not play RTA, it's still important that we discuss this. If you disagree with any of the things that I mentioned today, or you agree, it is very important that you comment and have this discussion, because we need to talk about it. We need to talk about what we want to see changed so that we're able to enjoy this game that we love even more. But if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. But without further ado, let's get to the video. So, biggest thing, motivation for this video, of course, this is the 3rd season of RTA that is ending, and it is going to be the Fallen Cecilia season where you can actually get her skin, which I think is very, very great. And with the ending, there are some glaring issues that are starting to pop up now that we're at 3rd season. A lot of these issues stem from the fact that there are not as many people playing RTA this season as there were in previous seasons. This is bad for early game players because you're going to be paired up against people that are significantly stronger than you, and it will make the experience a lot worse. And it's bad for high level players because there's not as many people to play with, and it also makes pair downs, which is a huge problem higher up, be more commonplace and more broken. So there are some glaring issues that, if left unchecked, could potentially harm this game mode, which is going to be the culmination of what a player works towards. There's a lot of great PvE content, and there's things like Arena, but RTA is usually the pinnacle of gameplay for Epic 7 for a majority of players, whether you like it or not. So that's why it's important to talk about these systems. So what we're going to be doing is talking first with some of the updates that I really want to see but are not as critical, to the number 1 and number 2, honestly all the ones above that are extremely critical to improve the game mode. Now, I know this is a very long introduction, but I think it's important to discuss because the goals for these changes are A, get more people playing the game, and B, get people more excited. There's still a big misconception that people think that it's just a whale playground, when RTA is so much more, and it's so much more exciting than just a playground for whales, right? So now let's get to the actual things I do want to see. So the first one is going to be a replay system. Now, with the introduction of this thing that it actually allows you to see drafts, it allows you to see bans, and it allows you to see units, one thing that I think would be very, very cool, and this one is not as critical in the long term, but it's something I know would be very expensive for smilegate to implement, would be some form of replay system where you can rewatch your previous 10 fights in the game and be able to see a lot of different things. This would serve 2 different purposes, and the reason why I put it at number 5. The first purpose that it serves is it allows you to learn from your mistakes. You can rewatch the video, see, okay, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. It allows you to re-experience what happened and kind of see where you need to work on your units. That's for someone that wants to try a lot harder. The other purpose that a replay system does is we're going to be getting a ton more clips. There are so many times where I'm playing RTA for fun and I happen to draft a really cool unit or a really cool team, or my opponent drafts a really cool unit or really cool team, but I'm not actively recording all the time that I play. So all those moments, all those experiences, the fun part of RTA that people don't get to see would be able to be shown more often, and people could share some great clips if it was saved, and they could go back and record it and share with everyone, whether on Reddit or on their Facebook groups or their own friend groups, and just make it a lot more exciting, where you could be like, look at this video of me beating this number 1 player or the super OP player, and you could talk about it and have fun. So a replay system that plays even just the last 10 fights, I think would be amazing, not only because it allows people that may not have recording capabilities to record their fights in better devices and then actually record it later on to share, but also creates more hype and shows more of the fun part of RTA and gets more people interested and into the game mode, and also allows for people to improve. So that's going to be number 5. I think it's very important. I understand that it's going to be very hard on smilegate's side because that's a lot of videos that they would have to store somewhere within either your game files or within their own servers, which can be a problem, but it's something that I think is very worth pursuing. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be the length of time that the season actually happens. So if we look at the previous seasons last for a whole 3 months. That is an extremely long time, and they usually have a 2-month wait period of preseason. So that means that there is 5 months between each RTA season. That is a very, very long time. So we need shorter seasons with balanced adjustments at each season to create hype around the game and make it more enjoyable for other people to try to want to play more often and try in different seasons. And it just overall would be a better experience, because I know for the people in Legend, tomorrow is going to be a very nightmare day. Tomorrow is going to be a very stressful day, and even if you were Legend or Champion or whatever for the 3 months, the fact that it takes so long, most people don't really start playing till the last week or the last 2 weeks is when most people actually start playing the game mode to try to get the skin. And the fact that it's so long, that means there's periods of time where no one is playing RTA. We get no play for the first almost for all of preseason, and then for almost all of the early season, there's almost no gameplay because the seasons are so long, and then balance adjustments that are game breaking can occur between seasons. Case in point, the Landy and Cerise buffs, well, these, or the Briarwitch Iceria buffs. Briarwitch Iceria buff happened mid of this season, and it completely changed the way that the season played out, and honestly made some players considerably stronger, but a lot of players also significantly weaker. So having those big balance changes mid-season can be problematic, whereas if you had a shorter season, not only are you getting more people engaged in the gameplay, but we can also plan buffs and nerfs, which they should have nerfs in the game, around these seasons to be able to make it more exciting, more refreshed, and people will be refreshed and want to play the game mode more often. So I really do think shorter seasons will be very great with a balance adjustment at the start and potentially maybe at the end of the season. That would honestly help the game mode be played more often, which would fix a lot of the issues that lower level players have of not having proper opponents if the seasons were shorter. So that is going to be number 4. Now on to number 3, matchmaking improvements. This one is a huge one for both late game players and early game players. Let me see if I can actually find one of the ones of why this is such a frustrating thing to happen. So first, from the low player side of the equation, right? So this is the people that maybe early game, maybe they're on their 3rd month of play, maybe their 4th month of play, they queue up unranked, and their first 10 matches are all against OP people. Or you're someone that's trying to climb in Champion or trying to climb out of Challenger, and you're getting faced with people in Legend, and they're just absolutely destroying you, and that's not fun, right? It's not fun to get your face shoved in. But it is important. It's the problem why this happens, and the reason why it happens is because there's not as many people playing the game. But there are still things they can do from both sides of the equation. Even before we get more people playing, and you need to fix these problems before more people start playing. So it's a continuous problem that just keeps snowballing. So the first one, let's talk with the high level side, and then we'll talk with the low level side. For the high level side, there is something called pair downs, right? And this happens very often. So for a pair down, for example, we see here that on average, I lose about 6 to 7 points whenever I lose a match against someone, right? At my rank. That's not bad, right? 6 to 8 points, that's expected because I'm winning about 10 to 12 points. So I am gaining more points than I lose in a match. The problem becomes when I play with a player that is lower ranked. The idea would be that because I'm a higher level player, I should be able to beat them. But when you're looking at Champion, where gear starts becoming really close, and Epic 7 being such an RNG reliant game, I'm going to be losing against these quote unquote pair downs very often, as I did here, that I lost to this player mainly because I wasn't able to get the right combo off, or I just got he landed all the debuffs, right? And that can happen very often, and because of that, I ended up losing 15 points. Had I won, I would only have gotten 2 points. You guys can see the disproportion of that. It's not fun. It feels like I'm wasting time because I only earn 2 points if I win. But if I lose 14, which is the equivalent of me winning 2 times. So 1 loss is equivalent of 2 wins. or the equivalent of 2 losses had I been paired up with someone on my same rank, right? And that is very frustrating, especially when you're trying to climb, and the closer you get higher up to legend, it becomes incredibly frustrating because it just feels like you're wasting time. I'm playing against someone that if I lose a bunch of time, a bunch of points, but if I win, I gain essentially nothing. I'm legit just playing to maintain a rank, essentially. And that can be very frustrating. On the other side, for lower game players, what needs to happen is they need to have better matchmaking systems. I don't know if that means extending the queue times. I don't know how long the queue times are, but waiting for someone that's of equivalent skill level. One thing that the game can do is check things such as how long the player has been playing, potential total CP of units, right? Because that would add up how many units the opponent has, max with all the other stuff that they have. That could be very good for early game players, so they're not getting paired up against people that have a massive unit pool with OP gear, right? And that'd be very, very good. And also not penalizing those players when playing against those very strong players if it's the same bracket. Like maybe if there's some type of score early on that can be assigned to each player, that if they have a certain win rate percentage from the previous season, when they fight these weaker players, those weaker players, it warns them match high, no point loss or something like that, because you're playing against someone that's just significantly better than you, and that will take away the edge of losing, and you can just honestly just surrender at that point if you don't want to play it out, right? So we can discuss on how this would actually function and how it could be fixed, but these pair downs for higher level players and with lower level players, so usually around bronze all the way to masters, pairing against players that are just at a completely different level that you are can really ruin that experience for you on both sides, right? So having to balance this out. For the other problem, it would be just completely removing pair downs if possible, or if a pair down does occur, make it less penalizing. I should not be losing 12 points. I should be losing 8 points, the same that I would lose if I lost to a player of equivalent skill level, but I shouldn't win as much, and they should still gain the big advantage. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about matchmaking improvements, but it's just something that really needs to be fixed on all ends of the spectrum. But that's the big thing, right? Because it's going to happen a lot, and it can be very frustrating. Now, for the number 2, we have brackets. Brackets right now are an absolute mess. If we look at the season rewards, from bronze all the way to champion, there is going to be an 800 point difference or so, right? That is expected, right? You win. That would mean that to get from bronze to challenger, it can take you some time, or even from bronze to masters, it's going to take some time, maybe like upwards to 200 to 300 games, which is expected, especially since the season is 300 days. Playing like 2 matches a day, it's like less than 10 minutes a day, you can get there even if you have to play 300 games, right? But then you start getting higher and higher in the brackets, and you realize right now, okay, champion to legend is 200 points. That's cool. But then you realize how big champion really is. If we look at champion, right? It's anything below 100 people. Champion starts at 2,000 points, right? The cutoff for legend is most likely going to be at around 4,000 tomorrow, right? Maybe even higher. That means there is a 2,000 point gap between champion, like just between champion. There's a 2,000 point gap between champion to legend. 2,000 point gap. Y'all realize how astronomical this is, right? Just in champion, there's a 2,000 point gap. That's the same as going from 0 points in bronze to champion. There's a smaller gap than from champion to legend. That is a absolute mess. It makes it so events cannot be easily managed. I used to do a lot of tournaments and used to be able to set up, oh, you're in Challenger RTA, you can probably enter the Challenger RTA, play people with your skill level, but I can't do that anymore because champion is so enormous. And for me, for example, I'm not very high in champion. If I fight someone that barely made it into champion, we are the same rank. But the skill level is astronomically different. The gear quality is astronomically different. It's not fair both to those players and to me that it's the same rank, and it just doesn't give the special feeling to champion, and it makes event holding considerably harder. I want to host more tournaments, but it's just a nightmare to think, how the heck am I going to do different brackets for different people if champion is so enormous? There's zero way for me to know that. So The bracket system is absolutely flawed right now. There should not be a 2,000 point gap between champion and legend. That is unacceptable. It's not fair to the lower champion players because they're expected to play against people considerably harder, and it's not fair to the high champion players because it just doesn't feel special. What's the point of climbing if at the end of the season I played over 1,000 games? Someone that played 200 games is the same rank as me, gets the exact same rewards. I get nothing over them. That is just very frustrating as a late game player, and for early game players, it makes it hard for event hosting. What I think needs to happen is split up champion. It needs to potentially to 2 different tiers, right? I think merit-based rankings are very good, and it makes it competitive. It makes people want to strive to be better. Having something like maybe top 500 or top 300 that can be like Grandmaster, or it could be like Diamond League, right? So maybe like a Diamond League in between Champion and Legend, that's for players that are top 300, and then having another one that is point based in between Champion and Diamond League that could be like Champion Plus, or splitting Champion into Champion 1, Champion 2, and Champion 3, right? Having that split, still keeping the Champion, but just having it split between those different brackets would be very, very important for both event hosting purposes, for competitive purposes. I'm not playing RTA anymore at this point, even though it's the last day and it's supposed to be the most exciting time, because there's no realistic way I'm getting to a top 100. So it's important to make different brackets for the sake of balance and for the sake of competition, to make it more exciting, make it better, and know people's skill level a lot better. So I think they definitely need to fix the brackets. But now on to the number 1. This is probably the biggest and the most controversial thing that needs to be changed, and that is going to be the rewards. The reward system is terrible. There is zero motivation outside of reaching Masters. Even to get to Masters, it is very little motivation. So first, let's unpack this and all the problems kind of leading up to the reward system, and all the problems stemming from the lack of a proper reward system. So when we look at the problems that we have with matchmaking, that's because not enough people are playing, as mentioned in the beginning. Why? There's no rewards. There's no incentive. The other thing, the only rewards you do get are season-based. As we mentioned, seasons are 5 months essentially. 3 months for the actual season, 2 months for the preseason. That's 5 months for only getting 1 skin and 1 frame, right? That's not a reward. That's nothing. Right? That's almost no motivation for anyone to play this game mode, especially when the skin is of a character that you probably may not even have. So if you're someone, like for example, last season with Faithless Litica, I don't have Faithless Litica. What's the point of me climbing to Masters when maybe I don't even like Faithless Litica? What's the point of me climbing to get the skin when if I'm in gold, I actually get a resource that is so much better? It takes way less time. It takes way less stress. I get better, like I get a really good reward. That's the conquest points, and I'm set. And the frames, okay, frames are cool, but they give so many other frames that are special that I don't even use my ranked frames, because again, that's the bracketing issue. A lot of people have champion frames. It's not special. Champion is not special at all. Getting champion is not special. There's hundreds of people that are in champion. It's not a special frame by any means. It's very common, to say the least. So there were 5 months for a unit that you may not even have. That's it. That's your reward for playing RTA. All the time you put into it, to building your units, to playing the game, for a reward that you may not even like, and there is nothing in between the process that they're giving you. I have played 1,000 games and have gotten nothing. So it's just absolutely terrible. The reward system in RTA is just atrocious. It's every 5 months you get a very small reward. That's it. That's all you get. There is zero incentive, which drives down the player base, which makes all these other problems way more prevalent. This is going to be the thing that kills RTA and kills Epic 7, a big portion of Epic 7, if it's not fixed. I know for myself, I'm already very burnt out. Why am I playing this long? Why am I playing 1,100 games? Yes, I have fun in stream. Yes, I have fun playing with other friends and things like that. But I don't need to be spending all this time that I am. And yes, I still enjoy it, but it just feels very lackluster. It feels very disappointing. So what can they do? There are several ways to fix this error, and from the casual side, I understand if you don't like RTA, you don't want there to You don't want to be forced to play RTA, and you shouldn't be forced to play RTA. But there are rewards that they can provide either weekly, so to promote climbing in RTA, maybe having weekly rewards in the shorter seasons, maybe having some Champions Conquest points, right? This would be great. Having Conquest points would be great. Having Mystic summons would be great. It's not really an unfair advantage to get Mystic points. Having an RTA shop would be great, where every game you play you can get something, and maybe you can buy cosmetics, you can buy charms, you can buy maybe gear reforge stones, right? There's a lot of different things that they can put in the shop, that there are already systems in place and rewards in place that would be very, very nice. They could add extra cosmetics. They could add auras to your characters, right? For the idle animations, adding auras would be really cool for you to be able to buy. They can add previous season skins for the players that may have not joined earlier on. They can have new skins for the 3 stars, such as Angelic Montmorency. There's so many things they can do with the shop that doesn't directly affect gameplay and force you to try to play. They have the Moonlight Stones that they can do for end of season rewards. There are so many systems in place that they can do. Reward shops, weekly rewards, weekly summons, cosmetics, background packs, friendship point increases, pet rewards. There is so much. There is so many things they can do. They can add lobby skins. They can add, there's like, the amount of things you can add is ridiculous. I can sit here and we can talk just about a reward system for RTA for hours on end, but they need to implement it. So that's the biggest one. The biggest problem is there's zero incentive to climb. Not only is there lackluster rewards, there's a broken matchmaking system. There's massively long seasons, and there's no incentive to the brackets to even have the flex capabilities to say that you climb very high. So all in all, RTA needs to change. If you want to keep the game of Epic 7 that we love alive, competitive, exciting, and have potential for the game to grow, we need to tackle these issues. And please, if you've made it this far, comment down below your thoughts. Comment below what you think needs to be changed, and we can have that discussion. So that's all I got for you guys today, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.